Milwaukee just got Nate Ament. They got Braden Burries. They've got a real solid foundation. I don't think you can look to any one guy on that roster and say, "Oh, he's going to be our next star." But you can look at a ton of guys and say they're going to be solid contributors.
Making my point, but I know you don't get it. Got cash in my briefcase, I'm handling business. They made a few racks from the head to the dentist. I'm handling shit, I'm a menace, no dentist.
Bang! At the buzzer!
What's up? Welcome back to the At the Buzzer podcast. I'm your host, DC, and I'm here with the Collin Hatfield Show. The Knicks are NBA champions, but the offseason is officially in full swing. There's been a lot happening in the past few weeks. Just a couple of days ago, we got Giannis traded to the Miami Heat for Tyler Hero and some other players. We'll get into it. Just this morning of the time it's recording, LaMelo Ball is traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Dusty May has left Michigan to join the NBA as the head coach, and the draft just happened. So let's just jump right into it all.
Yeah.
About a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, the New York Knicks beat the San Antonio Spurs in 5 games to win their first NBA title since 1973. Jalen Brunson, Finals MVP. OG Anunoby, he could have. He made a strong argument for Finals MVP. I don't know. There's been a lot of storylines to come out of this, but I guess we'll start with Jalen Brunson. Did he just stamp himself as the greatest Knick ever? You think?
I have to say, in my humble opinion, without a doubt, for your franchise to go 53 years, but respectfully, it wouldn't be like Charlotte going 53 years or Memphis going 53 years. This is the mecca of basketball and the mecca of culture as well. And for the Knicks to have pumped out as many all-time greats through their franchises they have, including Carmelo Anthony, Willis Reed, Patrick Ewing, they've had all of these guys come through that we've consistently viewed as franchise changers. For none of them to be able to get the job done, excluding Willis Reed back in the day, and Jalen Brunson to do it after we all heard what Becky Hammond said, you need a bigger 1A guy. You need a bigger lead guard to go and get that bucket for you. And not only does he do it, he gets Finals MVP and he closes it with 45 on the road. You can't ask for much more. That's storybook.
Yeah, it was a special performance. I think another topic that has come out of this is, well, before I get into that one, let's talk about De'Aaron Fox. What happened there, bro? I'm not gonna lie. He was a clutch player of the year. Not even 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's like he gets in the fourth quarter and forgets how to play basketball. I don't know what happened. It was kind of hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think that the Spurs need to move on from him? Although I think there was the report that they're going to keep him. So who should be the starter next season is my question.
My non-political answer is Dylan Harper. My political answer is De'Aaron Fox. If you're paying a guy $230 million, it's hard to sit him down. But we clearly saw Dylan Harper is not only good for where he's at, he's on a trajectory to be an elite all-star guard in this league. He is bigger. He's stronger. He consistently gets paint touches. We've seen De'Aaron Fox slowly kind of be stripped of that top-tier athleticism. He can still beat guys, still has a good, solid first step. But Dylan Harper is a lot like a Cade, a lot like a Manu Ginobili. He's this big guard that has a lot of moves in his arsenal, can finish around the rim, take contact, and I think he has more potential as a playmaker. Coming out of Rutgers, he was very solid in the pick and roll, and we saw it a lot in the regular season. We saw it scale back in the postseason. So I think with time and comfort, he's going to become a near double-double guy when it comes to points and assists. He can rebound, obviously. So the non-political answer is he needs to be on the court, and he needs to be sharing as much time with Victor Wembanyama as possible. But I don't know if the Spurs are courageous enough to say, "Hey, Fox, we want you to come off the bench." Then you have to consider if he handles that well or not. Because some guys, once again, getting paid that level of money, are going to say, "No, I'm not coming off the bench. You have to trade me." And we don't know what his trade market looks like. It may not be that good right now. So there's a lot of questions. But I think the right thing to do is giving Dylan Harper as much court time as possible.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, he's a rookie. Well,
Mhm.
you would never have been able to guess that he was an 18, 19-year-old playing in the finals. The way he
Yep.
was playing with more poise than his veteran starting point guard at times, and it was odd. But you know how NBA discourse. I mean, you know how NBA chatter will be. There's always going to be one scapegoat when a team
Always.
loses, and this year that was De'Aaron Fox. He had he had questionable moments, and I'm not going to say he's totally undeserving of that, but I don't know. There's other factors at play here. I think I don't really see too many people talking about Wemby shooting like 28% from deep in the series, 30 something percent from the field all series, kind
Mhm.
of disappearing in the fourth quarter in many games. And I know a lot of people like to highlight that layup that he took that got blocked by OG Anunoby in game 3 after the comeback, but the entire team let up a 22-point lead. It wasn't just De'Aaron Fox. Same
Right.
argument that we had with the James Harden in the Cavs discourse in the conference finals.
Mhm.
And another point on that layup, I think absolutely yes, he should have just dribbled the ball out and got fouled and, made the smart play, but let's not act like Sacramento Kings De'Aaron Fox isn't getting that ball and dunking that, like,
Exactly.
quickly. So I'm not the most mad at the shot. I don't think it was the smartest play. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed.
Do you think that the Knicks winning that championship, do you think that that was more of, hey, the Spurs weren't ready, they're too young, they didn't have the experience, and the Knicks do have playoff experience, do have veteran leadership? Or do you think that the Knicks were just, how people say the team of destiny for this year, and it was just they were gonna win the title?
The thought that always came to my mind is that styles make fights, and this series was the epitome of that. The Spurs, you look at their defense structurally, basically all defenses in the NBA give up the corner three, but the Spurs take it to a new level when they keep Wemby as the low man. And what they do is they rotate everyone around him. So he's always going to be the first guy to rotate over and defend the rim, whether that's the strong side of the floor or the weak side of the floor. But what differs is he will, if he does get raised up higher on the floor, he'll get back and he'll scram switch someone, whether it's Champagne, Castle, Fox, Harper, he'll have them go up so he can maintain his spot. And what I think is that just taxed their defense and their legs over time. You look, they had a 5-game series with Portland, 6 with Minnesota, who's a big physical team, and then 7 with the Thunder, who are as physical gets in modern basketball. Now you move on to the Knicks, and your 4 that are orbiting around Wemby as he tries to protect the paint, they're under constant attack because Jalen Brunson can break down his man at any given time, no matter how good the defender is. Karl Anthony Towns can do the same thing. OG Anunoby, off the bounce, he can get to the rim. Mikal Bridges can get to the rim. So I think it put so much stress on their defense to have to rotate, in that it wasn't like the Spurs where they were the Thunder where they were doing the same thing, but the Thunder couldn't punish that with shooting. There was, if you go back and watch this final series, there were so many late clock threes given up because an initial advantage would be created and they drive and kick it 3 or 4 times, and Wemby kind of just camps in the paint to deal with each one of those driving kicks. But the perimeter guys either lose their assignment or they get tired and don't give that last effort. So I just think they had the perfect mix of everything to beat the Spurs and the Spurs philosophy. And I think part of it was destiny. This team has overcome a lot. They've had to fight the past couple of years, have had those heartbreaking playoff losses, and everything just came together. It was the perfect storm for a Knicks championship.
Yeah, I think so. What did they win? 11 straight games or something after
Yeah.
losing those first two against Atlanta. They only lost one against San Antonio. One of the greatest offensive performances we've seen in the postseason. It just looked like, hot at the right time, and that's
Hmm.
sometimes that's all you need in basketball.
Really.
And it looks like that, the Knicks got him a ring. Do we think that this is a one-time ring, though, or is it maybe a dynasty? Do you think their window is a little long? Are dynasties even possible in today's NBA?
I'm gonna say no. The bargaining agreement, it really tightens up the type of money that you'll have. And I just saw a report the other day where James Dolan said, I'm not going deep into the luxury tax to
Yeah,
keep this group together. And you have to think, Brunson took 130 million less dollars a couple of years ago. Is he doing that again? No, he's got a chip this time. He's proved
right.
everything he has to prove to the city, and rightfully so. If I'm him, give me my money. I just bought you a chip. Like Carmelo didn't do that, Patrick Ewing didn't do that. Nobody else has done it but me since the 1970s. So give me my money. And anyway, we could talk about this more one day, but the concept of an owner asking a player to take a pay cut, I think is so hilarious. While James
It's
Dolan
crazy.
is a billionaire and he's making X, Y, and Z crazy amounts of untaxed money a year, you want Jalen Brunson to take the pay cut. But I digress. I don't think it happens again. Indy's going to be healthy next year. That means Tyrese Halliburton, Nimhard is back, Pascal is back. They have a real center in Ivica Zubac, who is going to prove a problem, for the Knicks on the glass as a defender. I just think that's a really tough team to overcome. You have to assume that the Pistons are going to be active in making moves. They present problems for the Knicks with their sheer physicality. Like that's a football basketball team right there. And so if they get similar pieces back, but let's say they add a Trey Murphy, a Lauri Markkanen, all of a sudden that becomes a really dangerous series. So there's just a couple of teams, and then you can't forget Boston. Jaylen Brown seems like he's on his way out, but they've been able to retool every time in a successful way. So those are the teams I'm looking at as a real problem for them. And then if they make it to the finals, the Spurs are only going to get better. They just drafted two defensive demons. The Thunder, we think, should be healthy. Who knows if they even lose to the Spurs if they have AJ Mitchell and Jalen Williams? And the Thunder are a worse matchup, in my opinion, for the Knicks when it comes to them versus the Spurs. So there's a lot of hurdles in the way. I'm not saying it can't happen, but in my opinion, I don't think we see it again.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't think it's possible. And I mean, we've seen it. The last 8 champions have all been different teams.
Yeah.
Small markets, big markets, doesn't matter. It's been a different team every year for nearly a decade. And I think that is, like you mentioned, the luxury taxes and the salary caps, but just roster and style changes that happen year in and year out. Teams
Hmm.
figure, they figure each other out. They watch film, they retool, they get pieces that'll, get them over that hump. So who knows? Next year it could be an entirely different team. And
Yep.
like you said, the Pacers will be back. So, and that historically has proven troublesome for New York in the playoffs.
Hmm.
So we'll see. The East will be interesting next season. Talking about the draft now, AJ DeBenza went number 1 to the Wizards. And I don't know, Trae Young paired with AJ DeBenza and AD, and I'm blanking on names, but they have a solid core group of role guys. Their bench isn't
Hmm.
that bad. I don't know. But other like big stories in the draft, obviously Darren Peterson. went number 2 to Utah, although he never worked out with them. We saw that's 2 years in a row, actually,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Bailey didn't work out with them either. They drafted him. And a record-tying 8 freshmen selected in the first, I think, 10 picks of the
Mhm.
draft. So, also, your boy Cam Boozer went number 3 to Memphis.
Go Duke.
Caleb Wilson, number 4. You know, we all knew that would be how that
Yeah.
would shake up that top 4. So I'm curious for you. Let's talk about the freshmen first. What do
Mhm.
you think that says about the college game right now? That freshmen are coming in, they're making huge impacts. AJ led the country in scoring. They're making huge impact, and then they just leave to come to the NBA. Do you think that the NBA might as well just bring back the straight out of high school draft?
Maybe, but I don't think they will because there's too much financial benefit to have the college pipeline. You know, you look at the draft, that's pretty much a joint effort between college, NBA, the NBA combine. A lot of these things are mutually beneficial to both the NBA and college, in my opinion. So I don't think they should bring that back. But for the state of the game, I think it means young players are coming into a game that's changing. College used to be like a lot like the NBA. It was hard structure. Dean Smith is like running his four corners stuff. Bill Self in Kansas is running his super post oriented offense. But now all these coaches have to change because you realize you're probably not going to have a bunch of returners. You need a conceptual system that's easy to digest, puts guys in space, and lets them rock out. So that needs to be the case this year, but next year I'm probably going to have a completely different starting five. So you need to be able to flip that formula every single year with minor adaptations based on who's at the top of the class. So I think that's what that says about college basketball. And in many ways, you see it infecting the NBA. Like some teams do have a harder system that we've seen them stick with for years. You look at a team like the Miami Heat, even though they just had a pretty big shift the last year, seeing, a lot of their drive and cut, drive and kick stuff. So I just think conceptual is the way that basketball is going. And you see it in all of the blue bloods right now that they have to adjust or they're kind of getting left behind. There's a few blue bloods who aren't seeing the same success that they saw even earlier in the decade. And I'm thinking a team like Gonzaga, because they've had that type of ironclad structure that they haven't bit much off of, but they're not getting the same recruits. They aren't as popular. Guys don't see the opportunity to go there, raise their draft stock, and get out. So it's kind of either adjust or get left behind right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's very valid points. I'm kind of thinking the same thing. I mean, we've seen it not just in college basketball, but college sports. Period. Coaches and programs are looking for more experienced players rather than freshmen because we want to win. Like
Right.
we don't want to just be the stepping stone for you to get to the NBA. Like we
Mhm.
would love that for you, but while you're here in college at my program, we want to go to the tournament. We want to go deep in the tournament. And I don't know, it feels like more experienced players are doing that. But that's another conversation. I'm curious, who do you think won the draft, I would say? Like what team do you think uh made the best changes that they could have made?
I got to start at number 3 for me, no bias included. But the Grizzlies getting Cam Boozer, that's a generational shift from what they've been in the Ja era. And I think in many ways that signals that the Ja era is over. Cameron Boozer's the new face of this franchise. And I love the move that they made going to get Isaiah Stewart. That works in two ways. You put a great shot blocker and really like an all NBA defensive level guy around Cam Boozer that can allow him to play the four. That makes your offense even better because now Cam can do all the mismatch hunting, the perimeter work, while Isaiah Stewart controls the interior, while he also can step out and shoot a little bit. So he provides some spacing for Cam Boozer. But it also works on a mentorship level. And I think Cam, like any other rookie, is going to have a target on his back. And you're going to think a little bit differently trying to go beef with Cam if you know Isaiah Stewart's on the roster. So he's got the ultimate protection these first couple of years while Stewart's on contract. So I think it's a smart move that works functionally on a couple of different levels. I think the Grizzlies did a great job. As we move down, there's a couple of picks here that are just awful, but I'm going to refrain from talking about those. LeBaron Philon at 22. I'm going to say this respectfully. He's better than Christian Anderson Jr. from Texas Tech. I like Ibuka Okore. I'm not exactly sure what his ceiling is. I could understand you taking him above LeBaron. I could even understand you taking Bennett Sturts. But I think I like LeBaron Philon's game more than I like Mikal Brown Jr. And I know that's a crazy take. The guy was taken at 6. Obviously, he's a good player. But to me, based off the values that I have on a guard, I don't think anyone outside of Acuff and Peterson was a better guard than LeBaron Philon. And let's throw Wagler in there. Wagler, he's really tough. I like his game. But you look at LeBaron Philon, improved to a very good shooter his sophomore year. His freshman year, he was a defender. He was a glue guy. So he's shown you versatility to go from being a role player to really controlling Alabama while making them a consistent top 25 team last year. Alabama's one of the most pro-ready systems in the league. Their spacing is very pro-oriented. They do a lot of 5 out, 4 out, 1 in. And you compare that to some other guards who are playing in more 2000s, 2010s like spacing. I'm looking at that fit and saying, if I put LeBaron Philon in the game, he's seen a lot of these concepts before. If I ask them to play 5 out and I want to guard to guard and we're mismatch hunting this entire quarter because you have a weak defender on the floor, that's nothing new to him. And I think that's really valuable. So I like his game a lot. And I think he should have been taken off the board a lot higher than he was. I do really like the Jaden Quentin's pick. I hope his health pans out, but I think he adds yet another elite potential defender to the Spurs team. One day you are going to have to score on Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Carter Bryant, Jaden Quentin's, and Victor Wembanyama. Good luck. I don't know what you really do with that. That's ridiculous. And finally, Koa Pete. When you sent me that tape, because I wasn't watching college ball a lot when it started, but when you sent me that highlight tape, I was like, who is this dude? And I've never heard of him before. But Koa Pete is the truth. And I want people, don't look at his raw stats. You've seen enough Big 12 ball to know Arizona keeps 2 bigs in the paint. And Krivas and the other big couldn't shoot. So there's no real spacing for Koa Pete to operate. He was doing solid production on a very old style basketball system, and his physical tools are out of this world. Dude is strong, super athletic, twitchy, can play above the rim. I think he's a lot closer to being a top 10 to 15 player in this draft than being picked at number 30. I'll throw another name out there. All due respect to Nate Mint, I think people have gone too far with their criticisms of him. But if I'm basing who I think is going to be the better player, have the better career, I think there's a pathway for Koa Pete to be better than Nate Mint, to be better than a guy like Yaxel Lindenborg that was taken 11th. And this might just be my optimism. Maybe someday someone will pull this up and say I'm an idiot and I don't know ball, and that might happen. But I really like Koa Pete. I think there's a real pathway for him to be a star. He just obviously has to work on the jumper and be in a system that's willing to develop and cater some of these fine skills around his athleticism.
Yeah. Man, that first game of the season, he had a 30-piece, I think 10, 11 rebounds against the defending champs. And He didn't look like an 18-year-old, in my
No,
opinion.
no.
So to see him go from that to number 30, like the last pick of the first round, I don't know. I understand, his jumper definitely needs work. I get it,
Hmm.
but I don't know. 30 is a little low. I like you talking about Phylon. I definitely thought he would end up lottery. I think he should have ended
Yeah.
up lottery.
Hmm.
I don't know. I kind of like the Native Mint pick for Milwaukee. I think that could be solid for them in their new era, their new rebuild. I think going away from super slasher, paint heavy
Hmm.
team, now they have guards like him and Harrow, who I know that they said they're still shopping, but if it ends up being him and Harrow as the backcourt with Ryan, that would be pretty solid. I think I
Yeah.
think that could work in a couple years, not
Hmm.
immediately. And I'm glad you brought up Okori because that's an interesting pick. I think that's a project pick. And I don't know if you not only pick him at 17, but they traded up to get him at
Hmm.
17. Do you think that he could be a good pairing for like with Cade as another scorer, or what do you think?
I'm gonna say yes, and I haven't seen the most of a Corey's film, but what I have seen, he can handle the ball really well, and he gets to the rim. He gets paint touches. And you look at the Pistons outside of Cade didn't have anyone that could do that last year. Asar can do it, but he can't shoot. So teams are sitting all the way off of him. It's kind of null and void. Dennis Jenkins
Right.
can shoot, move around the perimeter, but he doesn't have the same physical tools that Okore has. So I like that pick a lot. It is kind of risky, trading for him, trading up for him. He's 6'2", not the biggest guy, but he can get to the rim, finish through contact, has really kind of crazy body control, is a solid playmaker. He's got some range on the three. And I think more than anything, they just need someone to come in that can relieve Cade of everything. I feel like Cade's kind of been in that role when you're in like middle school or elementary school and you go out to play and you pick all the guys that you know are going to defend and rebound so that they can give you the ball and you can get up as many shot attempts as you want. I feel
Right.
like that's been the Pistons' motto of building around Cade. Not saying that Cade thinks that way, but they've gotten as many defenders, rebounders, hustle, and glue guys to put around Cade, and no one that can also get the rock and do something
Sure.
with it.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I like the pick. There's a little bit of risk to it, and maybe they would have wanted a guy like Bennett Sturts. I think he would have been really beneficial for them with his shooting, his size as well. Once again, LeBaron Philon, I think would have made a lot of sense for Detroit. But I do think they've got someone really solid right here.
And two other picks I want to talk about, two Michigan guys. I think Morris Johnson going to Dallas is pretty solid. I'm not too mad at that. I think that's people are calling it a culture changing pick. I'm not mad at that. I think he's a really solid big. But mainly I want to talk about OKC getting a Mara. Sam Presti, I don't know if you can call any other GM the GOAT, man. I
I
don't
don't think
know.
so.
Sam Presti he's a magician. But with that, the trade to get Shea from the Clippers
Mhm.
is officially over. And that ended up with what, 5 first rounders? It's crazy.
3
But
of
how do
them
you feel about
all-stars.
a Mara? Right, and they got a ring out of it. It's crazy, man. But now they have what, 3 7-footers? Uh, how do you think that fits into an already kind of loaded roster full of young guys who can make a difference?
Give me just a couple seconds to hate. I don't think Morez Johnson, I don't like the move. I don't like the
You
move.
know,
I I understand why you would do it, but my thought is you're young, you have time to build around Cooper Flagg, you can be a bit more aggressive. You have Coop. who was getting Garnett comparisons defensively out of college. So if you get him a big man that can really solidify the inside, aka a Dai Mora, who's 7'3", blocks everything, and is somewhat fluid enough to come out to the perimeter and defend pick and rolls, that frees up Cooper Flagg so much. So much. And so I just like his upside a bit more than Morez Johnson. But overall, I see what you're saying. It's a culture pick. It's a solid pick and it's a safe pick. But as for the
Mhm.
OKC Thunder, getting a Daimara means a couple of things. Isaiah Hartenstein, I don't think you have very long left with this franchise because he's up to be paid pretty soon. It's either this summer or next summer. And I
So
don't
you think they
see,
picked Chet? You think they picked to keep Chet over Hardenstein?
yeah, they're gonna keep Chet around. And like you
Okay.
said, with the De'Aaron Fox situation, NBA chatter and discourse can lead you to believe things are worse than what they really are. You look at Chet, he was pretty disgusting offensively in the postseason, but he is still the anchor of this all-time great defense. I'm talking this
Yeah.
defense stacks up to units from like the 60s and 70s when they were playing five bodies in the paint together. You know, this defense stacks up to those type of units in today's pace and space game. So I think you've got to hold on to Chet. He can shoot, can maneuver on the perimeter, and that gives space for a Mora to develop. And this season, I don't think Mora is going to play crazy minutes. He's going to do a lot of watching with Hartenstein. He's got to get acclimated to the pro game. And once he does, you will see him next to Chet. And I think ultimately the Spurs and the Thunder were drafting so obviously to counter one another. You know,
Yeah.
the the Thunder realize, okay, with Wemby, and you watch the Knicks, you need big bodies on them. Our whole strategy of putting guards on them isn't viable. So they go out and get a Daimara. They also realize shooting wise, we need help. They go out and get Bennett Sturts. Masterful GM work from Sam Presti. You get another guy who's going to counter as much as possible Victor Wembanyama's presence. And you look at that team, they live at the rim. Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox at times. All these guys live at the rim. Adayamara lives there as well. So that's going to be a constant conflict over the next 5 to 7 years. And then the Bennett Sturts pick, amazing. This guy can shoot, handle. I still hold out so much hope for Nikola Topic, one of my favorite stories in the past
Yeah.
couple of years in the NBA. But if he can't develop, I think Bennett Sturts could be that guy to take his spot, either eventually as a starter or commanding that second unit.
Where does McCain fit in all of that?
They're not gonna have McCain for long. I
Mm.
I think it was a great move, and it's a great move for the short term. I think they probably hold on to him another year or two, but once it's time to get paid, he's going to have showed enough for someone to gamble on him, to pay him enough money to make him a starter, a real, like, foundational piece of their organization, or shoot, by the time his contract comes, maybe we have an expansion draft, and maybe we have one of these
Yeah.
new teams that need a guy that isn't gonna be protected, and I think McCain probably falls into one of those 2 categories.
Yeah, I think he's shown that he can be, you know, if not the lead player, like the lead guard, he can be the second option for a 1-2
Mhm.
punch on a contending team. I think he's shown that. Honestly, he showed it with the Sixers because he was gonna win Rookie of the Year, and then they drafted his replacement, and then VJ played very well too, so I understand, wanting to move him after that, but yeah, like you said, I feel like by the time it comes time by the time it comes down to, paying guys, there will probably be the expansion draft, and you said it. That's gonna gut OKC's roster because
Oh,
they have
yeah.
a lot of guys who, I can go somewhere else and be a starter. I can go somewhere else and put up 15 to 20 points to 23 points a game. Like, I can go do
Right.
that somewhere else. And then also they have 3 guys already that are getting, super max money. So how are you going to sustain that?
Mhm.
So it'd be interesting to see how OKC does in the next few years, but we've already had two pretty blockbuster trades happen
Yeah.
in the past week. We finally got the Shams, Giannis, Milwaukee, all of that saga is finally over with. Giannis has finally been traded to Miami, a team that I predicted, by the way. Milwaukee traded Giannis and Bobby Portis to Miami in exchange for Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kasparis, I'm not going to
Something like
try to
that.
pronounce the last
Yeah.
name, and 3 first-rounders, and a pick swap, and a second-rounder.
Mhm.
What do you think? Is that a lot? Or, I mean, it is Giannis. Does that make sense, or is that a lot? I look, you think that's a lot.
That's a lot. I'm not the biggest Tyler Hero fan, but the guy still averages 20 plus a night. Khalil Ware, we've talked a lot about his potential as possibly an all-star guy one day.
Hoosier.
That he is. Defender, crazy size, has shown the ability to shoot the three ball. And Eric Spoelstra can be really tough and interesting with his rotations. We saw Duncan Robinson
Yeah.
in his career get out to a hot start, be on that finals team. The year after, he took him out of the rotation. You know, there was stretches of time where he just wasn't playing. So I think there maybe at times he can be overly aggressive with how he pulls back on players' minutes. And I think Khalil Ware is going to see in Milwaukee, and really the world's going to see just how good he really is. Jaime Jaquez, 6-man of the year runner up. And he really should have won 6-man of the year. I think he had better numbers than Keldon Johnson, was more productive than Keldon Johnson. And we saw when Keldon Johnson got to the playoffs. Yeah. Kasparis, that doesn't move me the most. I think he has potential, but for me, it doesn't move me the most. 3 first-rounders, that's a lot. You know,
Yeah.
once you pair it with giving away 3 guys that combine over 40 points a night, you know, that is a ton of production. They get number 13, which turned out to be Nate Min, pick swap plus a second rounder. Milwaukee, that is textbook how you trade a star. They have now flexibility going into the future. If they want to keep Tyler Hero and experiment with him as the guy, you can. If you want to dish him out to a team like Detroit or Houston that needs some shooting, you can get some return for that. You've got a young Ryan Rollins. You've got Nate Amit, Braden Burries, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, all these guys under 27 that you have ample time to build with and build around. So I really like the GM work that they've done. That's the proper way to trade for a guy. I think their trade package was better than Boston's. It was really better than anyone else. So that's just how you get the job done.
Yeah. Milwaukee said they chose Miami because they offered, more young players. And I
Mhm.
think Boston was unwilling to let go of Baylor Shireman or I think Hugo, which is it's interesting. I don't know. I kind of see their point, but for Giannis,
Baylor
we can
Shireman
let
is
go of
crazy.
Baylor Shireman. Man.
Baylor
I'm not gonna
Shireman is
lie,
crazy.
bro.
Hey,
But I understand it. They don't want to let go
Mhm.
of it. They're young guys. I don't know. 4 players plus what
3
4
picks.
picks. That's
That's
crazy
a
to me,
lot,
man.
bro.
I know Giannis is an all-time great. Don't get me wrong, but wow. And then especially it being we knew Tyler Hero would be a part of the trade package, but I wasn't expecting Jaquez to be in there too. Like you said, he
That's what
should
I'm
have been
saying.
6-man of the year, but Keldon Johnson had to, whine and beg for it, and he got it.
Right.
So this this does, well, it jumps the heat from play-in regulars to I'll say Eastern Conference contenders because they don't have a bench, man. There's been so many memes about what their bench is looking like, and if I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't name one player. I'm thinking Davion Mitchell,
He's gonna be starting.
and he's gonna be starting. Exactly. So it's like, I don't know. They probably still got some work to do, but how?
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Um.
So
Let's see.
how do you feel Bam and Giannis will be able to pair together? Do you think that'll be well?
Defensively, yes, because I think you saw in the Spurs series, there's a real value to having two shot blocking capable guys on the floor at all times. Because when the Knicks were able to successfully take Wemby away from the rim, they didn't have anyone else of size that could rotate over. So I like that. Bam is switchable, Giannis is switchable. But when Bam switches, you can't just reverse the ball and drive it when he's up at the perimeter because now Giannis is somewhere lurking on the block. So I like that move. Offensively, Bam has upped his 3-point volume, which I think is very good, and it's necessary for him to play next to Giannis. He took 5 attempts a game, but only 31%. You know, that's not it's not great. It's not great. So you need him to be more efficient on those looks to give teams a real reason to fear him out on the perimeter and create space for Bam. Now, I do think both of their abilities to handle the ball will allow them to play next to each other in certain actions. They can run the screen and roll for each other. They can have DHOs for each other. That I think is super valuable, and they both can pass. Great. But I am a little worried about their spacing because there's a possibility Norman Powell leaves. And after that, Simone Fontecchio, is he going to knock down 6 threes for you? Is Drew Smith going to knock down threes for you? Pele Larson, Myron Gardner, you get my point. It's not looking great. So they got to get somebody that can go out and shoot the ball, whether that's, a quick trade. Hey, Malik Beasley, I think he was acquitted of all the charges and he's fine. Go out and get him. You need a shooter. And not too long ago, he was thug shaking and knocking down 7 threes versus the Knicks in the playoffs. So I think it's worth it. I'm a little skeptical of their offensive fit next to each other right now. And like you said, you used to call it the DeMar DeRozan Invitational. But it might be the Eric Spoelstra Invitational with the way that the Heat
It
stay
might
in the
be.
play-in. And so, it's good to be lifted out of that status, but are they better than the Knicks? Are they better than the Pacers? Are they better than Detroit? Are they better than Washington? Remains to be seen. There's a lot of questions right now. And I don't know if 7 total assets, including 40-plus points a night, plus 3 future first-round picks, is worth giving up your entire future. Because if this Giannis thing doesn't produce a ring, they're left with no talent, no tradable assets, and no picks. So Miami's going to be done and dusted for a minute if they're not able to turn this into a championship.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be weird to see Giannis in a Miami Heat jersey
Yeah.
because he's I'm trying to think of anyone else. He's one of the only players that we've actually seen get drafted to his team and lead them to a championship. He's one of the only players we've seen in like the past 10, 15 years do that. So to see him on a different team now, that's going to be odd. So before we move on, who do you think won the trade, both short term and long term?
Short term and long term, I'm going to say Milwaukee. I don't think Miami got enough to make them a title contender. I think the Knicks are more viable than them. I think the Pacers are more viable than them. Detroit is a 6 or 7 game series. Cleveland that, as crazy as that sounds, analytically might be able to give them some problems. So I just
Right.
don't know enough if that trade did enough in the short term, and then in the long term. Now Milwaukee just got Nate Mint. They got Braden Burries. They've got a real solid foundation. I don't think you can look to any one guy on that roster and say, "Oh, he's going to be our next star." But you can look at a ton of guys and say they're going to be solid contributors. And they're all young. They're going to grow together. And Khalil Ware's a real wild card. If it was anyone I could point to and say, "Oh, this guy could be a star," it's probably him out of that grouping.
Yeah.
So I just like their return, and I think they have so many options with what they can do in the next 7 years.
Yeah. I I don't know, man. Like you said, 7 assets for 2 players. We're forgetting Bobby Portis, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Or 2 players. I don't know.
right.
It seems like too much.
Yeah,
But let's talk about the LaMelo Ball was traded from the Charlotte Hornets to Minnesota Timberwolves. It was LaMelo Ball and Josh Green to the Wolves in exchange for Naz Reid, 2033 unprotected first, 3 first-round pick swaps, and 3 second-rounders. So now the number 1 and number 3 picks from the 2020 draft are in the same backcourt. The Wolves also re-signed Ayo Dosunmu for, what was it, 115 over
yeah,
4 years, something like
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
We saw them trade away Julius Randle to Brooklyn for Nick Claxton and some other pieces. So I don't know. Does that backcourt plus Rudy Gobert plus Ayo Dosunmu, does that make the Wolves a more serious threat in the West, or is it going to be more of the same where they might go to the ECF, they might go to the semifinals where they lose to OKC or San Antonio, or do you think that now that Ant has a reliable second scoring option, do you think that can get them over that hump?
I think it makes them more serious, but it doesn't put them on OKC's level. It doesn't put them on San Antonio's level. I just think this is such a weird and interesting move for both sides.
Yeah,
Charlotte is finally close to the rebuild being complete. For the first time since 2012, they're like a somewhat serious basketball team. And they moved the guy who finally, fulfilled everything that people have asked of him. Not that he be an elite defender, but he starts to take the defensive end more serious. He was able to do enough to keep this team playing viable. They had an amazing game versus the Miami Heat in the play-in, and they were able to make it to the second play-in game. I just think it's so interesting because why ship LaMelo Ball out now when everyone finally has an expectation for you all going into next year? But be that as it may, I like this move for the Wolves because we've said for a while Ant needs a real point guard. Not only does he need a real point guard, but he needs another explosive scoring option. And LaMelo can get you 30. He can get you 35. So having that next to Ant is going to take a lot of the pressure off him to create every night. He doesn't need to be as great of a playmaker because that's what LaMelo Ball does. We're going to see. If Rudy Gobert isn't putting up some of the best numbers of his career in this first half of the season, you might have to trade him because
yeah.
we've seen it not work with some other really high-level playmaking guards. LaMelo is going to spoon feed him baskets. That should be a dream pairing. But I just don't know if that's enough. OKC and San Antonio are at such a high level right now. This move makes them scary, but maybe it moves those series from a 5-game series to a 6-game series. Maybe they could get 7. I don't know if that's enough to make them a winner. But culturally, this is
Say.
quite the mix. Everyone in Minnesota, please be safe driving because LaMelo Ball is coming to a city near you. So please be careful. And here's the thing, on the court, I don't distrust Ant at all. He's proven to take things seriously, get this team exactly where they need to be. And I'm hoping, and I'm talking strictly on the court here, if he can be the influence maybe that LaMelo Ball needs to keep everything, and that's crazy enough to say in itself, right? That Anthony Edwards is going to be the moral compass for LaMelo Ball, but hey, we're
Right.
here now. So I don't know, what else to think of this, but I think it makes them better. But they still have some work to do this offseason. They're not where they need to be yet.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think entertainment wise,
Yeah.
it's gonna be such a fun pairing. Like
Yeah.
low key must watch basketball because they gonna have that. Hey, do it there, cuz they gonna have that offense. That's what they saying on Twitter, and it's gonna be fun. Is this possession, all right, ISO him LaMelo. Next possession, ISO him and they
Right.
just keep doing that. And shoot, next possession, ISO him IO.
Right.
Like that'll be fun to watch. But I don't know. Like you said, they definitely have more work to do, especially at the forward position. Jaden
Mhm.
McDaniels, great player, great piece, need him. But at the four, starting at the power forward, I don't know. They got to make another move just to get like someone serviceable at the four,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they don't need like a big star or anything. They have two of them.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're watching you, Rudy. We're watching Rudy.
Yeah.
I'm a reformed Rudy Gobert hater, so
Same.
I think he could, you know, like be very beneficial to the team more than he already has been. I
Mhm.
mean, before they got him, they only went to the conference finals once.
Yeah.
Now with him, they're perennial Western Conference contenders. But I don't know, like you said at the beginning, it's just it's a weird, interesting move for both teams.
Mhm.
It was super unexpected. I did see the report that the Hornets were shopping LaMelo, and that
Yeah.
kind of threw me off because that was surprising. But to go to Minnesota of all places, that's weird. So let's talk about it from Charlotte's perspective. Is this them canceling the rebuild or kind of like shifting it towards let's build around Brandon Miller and Colin Knippel? And I guess you can throw Nasri in there. Or I don't know. I really don't know what Charlotte's thought process is here.
Genuinely, I just woke up and I was shocked. I I have a couple of assumptions. Either they are so against the image, brand, and culture that LaMelo Ball brings as the face of your franchise that they needed to move on. Which, I mean, this isn't church. It's basketball. It's like this. This is the guy is making things work. So
I
I
don't
don't
know,
think
man.
this.
That can't be it. That can't be it.
Yeah, cause
They
I try.
employ Miles Bridges. I don't know if LaMelo being LaMelo is
Actually, that's a great point. I didn't think about that because surely it can't be morals if Miles Bridges
it can't
is
be.
still on this roster. It can't be morals. So that was the first thing I thought of. Secondly, maybe they are like of the mindset that Atlanta was with Trae Young, Luka, and Dallas, where we distrust your ability to defend, and maybe we think that we want to be more solidified on that end. But you're starting Kobe White. He's not a good
Yeah,
defender either,
right.
and I just don't know. There's not a single to me, maybe the only option left is they have something else up their sleeve that we don't know about. Either
Mhm.
they scouted Christian Anderson Jr. and think he's going to be the next coming of Gary Payton, or they have some trade lined up or move lined up to acquire another league guard that can maybe do some of the playmaking while still being a strong defender. I can't tell you. It's perplexing. Charles Lee is a great offensive mind, and I think you really just kind of shot him in the foot here because what is he going to be able to do? Naz Reid is great. I love Naz Reid. He's awesome, but he's not LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball is the reason why they were catapulted into being a top 5 offense this year. I do think there's some room for growth for Knipple. You can start to utilize the system moving around him off the ball. Maybe there's more space here for Brandon Miller to develop into that PG-esque type of guy. But all in all, I'm just a little confused. I don't see a clear path forward for them to replace the void that Ball left in that franchise.
Yeah. Honestly, my thought process is they just wanted to get rid of Melo. I'm gonna be honest. For whatever reason, that could be
Yeah.
private to them. I don't know what it is, but they just wanted to move him because I don't get it. They look like one of the better up and coming young teams in the league.
Yeah.
They, like you said, that has not been a serious organization since I've been a fan of basketball, if I'm gonna be honest.
For real.
So to see them go to the play-in finally and beat a play-in regular like Miami, and then they definitely got blown out
Yeah.
by Orlando that next game. But
Yeah.
I don't know. No one was like, yeah, blow the team up after that. Everyone was like, okay, Charlotte might be solid next season,
Right.
I think they won, what was it? 32 of their last 45 games last season. I don't think that's something that you just do away with
No.
in the next like couple months after that. I don't get it.
And it goes to show you they started the season out really rough. I think they were like 6 and
Mhm.
26 or something like that. So for them to even recover all that and make the play-in means you were pretty dominant the second half of the season. So if you keep that type of win pace going into next year, you could be out of the play-in. You could be a top 6 seed. So I don't get it, bro.
Yeah.
I'm lost.
It's definitely something that we just don't know. That's
Yeah.
like that's organizationally like going on because it makes no sense. Finally, Dusty May, head coach in Michigan, just won the national championship, has taken a job with the Dallas Mavericks, replacing Jason Kidd as a head coach. He's the first college coach to make that jump since John Beilein went to the Cavs in 2019 and had a horrible season.
Yeah.
He's the first title-winning head coach to make that jump following winning the title since Billy Donovan left Florida, I think, and that was a while ago. I don't know.
Mhm.
Historically, we haven't seen college coaches be successful in the league. They always end up going back. But
Mhm.
I don't know. Dusty, he kind of has a solid situation in Dallas. I mean, he
Yeah.
has a generational young player to build from. And there have been reports recently that he was growing very angry and weary with the college game, particularly with the transfer portal. I can't remember who was the reporter, but he was doing an interview with Dusty and he got a call and a recruit had verbally committed to play at Michigan.
Mhm.
And after the phone call, he went back to the interview with the reporter. And the reporter was like, "Oh, that must be exciting for you." And Dusty was like, "Nah, just because he said he's coming here doesn't mean he is. Now I got to talk to his agent." So that's like one of multiple reports I've seen of him not liking it. So him going to the NBA isn't surprising, but with the track record of college coaches making that jump and having poor records, what do you think? Do you think that he can be a successful pro coach?
Yeah. I think he can. It's it's nice, like you said, to have Cooper Flagg. That's going to ease a lot of the tension, and then you have Kyrie Irving coming back that you assume possibly could be your point guard next year. I don't know. Maybe he gets sent to Charlotte. I don't know. We'll see. But you've got Cooper Flagg. And to me, that's why I was a little disappointed in Morez Johnson at 9. Setting culture is one thing, but when you have guys like LeBaron Philon on the board, Dylan Swain on the board, Adai Mara on the board, you don't. What's the need to be overly safe there? You know, you need to start developing real talent that's going to be here and can produce for you. So I think that was a bit of a misstep, but hey, they still got time and they still have plenty of options. That's not going to be the end all be all. However, I saw this video where someone was saying, I think they quoted him saying, like, I just enjoy being a college coach, or I just enjoy being a coach. I don't like the politics. I don't like the extra stuff. I just want to coach. That's only going to get worse for you in the NBA. Like, yes, college has the NIL, they have all the movement, but now you're going to be dealing with media on a different scale than you've ever dealt with it before. You are going to have to deal with personalities that you can't just say, oh, you know, you're here on a scholarship, you do X, Y, and Z, we're kicking you off, you know, whatever. Like, there's cap rules, there's guaranteed money, more so than what you see on the college level. So I don't know. You know, if you have that mentality, maybe the NBA is not the place for you. I just think that's it's kind of a conflicting move. If you want to be a pure coach and that's all you want to do, that's what your role is, going to a bigger league that is more publicized, deals with more personalities, guys that are making more money, it seems like that's not going to be the easiest thing to do. But that's just my opinion. I think he's a great X's and O's guy. I think he does a wonderful job defensively. They do a lot of switching on the perimeter. That's pro style. Yaxel Lindenborg, you know, mentioned how they run a lot of pro stuff at Michigan. They were somewhat a ball centric, not ball centric, a pick and roll centric team last year with Cadeau and then Mora. So I think they do a lot of replicatable things on the pro level, but his teams have kind of been low 3-point volume since he's gotten to Michigan. That's probably not going to fly in the pros. There's not many teams that play that style. One of the teams is Denver, who has Nikola Jokic, you know, a guy that can generate a look at any given time. So unless you have that on your roster, you probably need to get the 3-point volume up, and that's not something I'm sure if he's ready to do just yet. So I do have a lot of questions. Overall, I'm somewhat optimistic. Replacing Jason Kidd is a tall task, a guy that has helped develop Cooper Flagg, helped develop Giannis. But we'll see. I'm just gonna say maybe I'm not expecting greatness too soon from
Right.
the Mavericks.
Yeah. I get it. There's a lot of questions. I think for me, I know I keep saying it, but the track record of college coaches making that jump is not great. There's gonna be outliers, like I think Larry Brown,
Mhm,
Brad Stevens. You know, even Billy Donovan has had some solid seasons. Like we've seen it work, I guess, but not that much. I do think Dusty could be one that makes it work though,
mhm,
because we've seen him turn programs that haven't been like good ever. I mean, he had FAU in the Final
yeah,
Four and
it's
Elite Eight
crazy.
back-to-back seasons.
Mhm,
Michigan has never been the best basketball program. They've had some great years, but they've never been the best. And especially in the last 5 years, they really have not been good. He came there, they won the Big Ten tournament
mhm,
his first year, and then they just won the national championship, blowing out Arizona, winning comfortably against UConn. So we've seen him make that turnaround before, and he's kind of seemed like a pro-centric coach to me. You mentioned the pick and roll heavy offense, the driving kick heavy offense, and utilizing bigs, which I mean we
mhm.
see that in the NBA. And I mean, shoot, he learned from the GOAT, Bobby Knight. So
Yeah.
that's another
Yeah.
plus. So I don't know. I think it can work. I'm kind of with you on the not immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not even next season. Probably the
Yeah.
season after that is when we probably see, 40 wins, 50 wins, something like that. So we'll see. Let us know in the comments. Can Dusty work in Dallas? How long does he have there? But that'll do it for the episode. That'll do it for the season. Season 6 is officially wrapped up. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We love talking hoops, and we love talking hoops for you guys, with you guys. Please keep up the engagement on socials. We love hearing you guys' thoughts. It helps shape our opinions, and it helps us with the podcast, helps us with the videos. So we really do appreciate you guys tuning in. 6 strong seasons, and it's only going to get better from here. But yeah, off season, full swing. We're probably going to see some more blockbuster trades happen before the
Mm-hmm.
season starts. But yeah, just let us know what you think. Who won the Giannis trade? Who won the Wolves trade?
Yeah.
Does Dusty get more than 2 or 3 years in Dallas? Yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back. Probably September, October. But
I like it.
we'll be steady active on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Make sure you guys keep in touch with us on there. Appreciate y'all.